had never heard of a star being before. I felt the pressure change, and then suddenly it felt like I was not alone. They were like 12 feet tall. It was an instant download. They are Syrian. They are not the only blue beings. Arcturians can be blue, Palladians, Lyrans can be blue. There's so many rapid changes coming up in the next few months. In November, there is a grand shift. There's a benevolence coming of the likes we've never experienced before. I was told my body will attune to the frequencies in the tombs and the pyramids, and I was asked by the blue beings of light to repair the capstone that takes the star's frequency down through the pyramid and amplifies the energy. Those 3 surges were really about getting the earth ready for expansion. In that vision, there would be blue light coming to earth and awaken billions of people. They've been describing everything to me through quantum physics. That's one of the most spot-on intuitive questions that anybody could ask me. The blue light frequency began to come in specifically in November of 2019. And it was a huge surge that came through a pyramid in China, in Xi'an, China. And when I was told that it would be coming through a pyramid in China, of course, in my humanness and my Western humanness, I said, oh, but they don't have pyramids in China. And then, lo and behold, they do. And they don't just have one, and they have many of their pyramids are inverted into the ground. I don't know if you knew that, but where the base is at the top of the ground, and then way underneath is where the top would be. I didn't know all that. And then I was told the second big surge. So it would be like a laser light going through hard black glass in the earth. And it shattered the first time in 2019. It came through in the pyramid in Teotihuacan in 2021. And I was asked by the blue beings of light to go to Mexico because they needed me to repair the capstone. So I know, Emergence, it's like I didn't know pyramids have a capstone. So I've learned a lot along the way. And then, so in November of 2021, there were several of us that helped recreate the electrical capstone because the churches had taken it down in the early 1920s. So we rebuilt it energetically. And then the third one, I was told by the blue beings of light, would come through the Southwest in the United States, which, again, in my cleverness, I just wanted to inform the blue light beings, we don't have pyramids in the United States. And so it's like there was the frequencies were jammed for a while, and then they finally told me it was on the Hopi land and the 3 mesas, and that I was told they used to be pyramids, and that they're so old that they'd been weathered. All right, so and so those 3 surges were really about getting the earth ready for expansion. So if you imagine, like, if the earth's in a straitjacket and it's just, releasing that, and so then you can move. I didn't understand all this at the time. I just was taking one step at a time. Well, recently, so that was 1921, 23, and now I'm here, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's 2025, because I began to see the human energy field, which I've studied for 30 years. It's like it started turning blue. Like there was this blue grid. It's like a blueprint. And I think you can relate to blueprints based on your history.
Big time.
But it was blue. And I thought, what is happening? So basically, the blue frequency, its sole purpose is to dissolve all illusions. Its frequency is attuned to enhance all truth and bring all wrongs to a place of right or they talk about justice, bringing things to justice. And so that's been happening over the last few years.
And it's interesting because you've mentioned a few things there, like November 2021, November 2019, November 2021, November 2023. There seems to be this pattern with Novembers. I mean, November 2025 is slowly coming our way. I mean, I know you've had sort of this vision for the three surges, but do you see something happening November 2025?
Yeah, well, so I know in November there is a very kind of grand shift. But I didn't, silly enough, I didn't connect the dots. And then all of a sudden, and I was told to go to Egypt this year because I was told I needed to get aligned with the frequencies, sound that you can't hear. That's what they told me. Sound that you can't hear, that my body will attune to it in the tombs and the pyramids, but I won't actually hear the sound. But anyway, I ended up just connecting the dots actually in the last couple of weeks. Yes, November's going to have another big surge. And I just got this information yesterday because this is how it comes. I just go on about my day. I could be washing dishes, I could be doing, and it's just like, oh, by the way. And it was one of those, oh, by the way, there's a benevolence coming of the likes we've never experienced before. And I was like, don't tease me. but I really had, I've just heard this a couple days ago, so I'm wanting to do a little deep dive on what really is benevolence. Like we talk about it a lot, but if we were to try to explain it to just just day-to-day life, it's like, how would we describe that? And so that's my next project.
That's your exploration. I mean, it is a very interesting question. How do you actually define benevolence as a felt experience for each individual as well? Yeah, profound. I'd love to ask more questions about that, but just before we dive into there, I mean, what is a capstone? Bring us into pyramids, capstones. Because like you said, you weren't aware of it. I'm sure many of our listeners probably aren't aware of it too. What is the capstone and how do you energetically restore a capstone?
Well, so the capstone, if we think of pyramids, and I'm not talking about the step pyramids, I'm talking about like the pyramid of Giza, for example, that it would be in that triangular shape. But it is a step pyramid in I never say it right. People are always correcting me, but I'll just say Teotihuacan, the Sun Pyramid. So a capstone, it's from what I understand, it's like the top of the building that is that takes like the star's frequency or the starlight or the moonlight or the sunlight, and it channels it straight down through the pyramid, and the pyramid somehow amplifies the energy as it's going down into the earth. So when I looked at the one clairvoyantly in Mexico, the blue light, we'll say in our dress rehearsal, because it wasn't going to happen yet, it was going to come down, but it got to the top and then it went to the side of the pyramid and it came into the side and then it went down to the center of the earth. And so what the blue beings were describing to me was it's going to slow down its optimal capacity to really gain speed. So there were, I would say, a couple of hundred of us. I just kind of reached out and asked people, and we just visualized it. And what we did was we just kept clearing the old energy blocks from it. There was a lot of old religious, um, there were deities and things like that, ancient deities that were up there that they had taken down. And then it was just like a little top. And so that what we did, we didn't know exactly what we were doing, but our heart was in the right place. We had a desire and a sense that we were really going to help humanity with this. And so we just kept clearing the energy that was blocking the blue light from being able to come directly down through the middle of it. And eventually it just clicked into place. And it's almost like you could feel like the whole atmosphere around the world just took a deep sighing breath, like, okay. Like if you've ever been to the chiropractor and they click those bones and you're like, okay, that's perfect. That's what it was like. And yeah. So in Egypt, the capstone, they said it used to have a gold, it used to be all white, and then it had a gold, like real gold, um, layer all around the top, which has since been dismantled and taken away. So it's no longer there. But it was a very important piece. It is a very important piece of the pyramid.
Yeah, fascinating. It's interesting watching just your ability to visually tune in and also like collectively band people together. I mean, there was this real felt sense of this is what's incumbent upon us to do. You mentioned blue. Is it beings? Is it energy? Like, because you're seeing blue light come online for people. You're seeing this blue energy coming down through to the planet. But then also, you said blue beings. Can you describe kind of, there's a bit of blue going on. I'm trying to like understand all the different blue elements.
Yeah. So it kind of, let me just kind of roll back then to talk
Please.
about the day, the moment when I'm minding my own business. And I have to just share with you, Amrit, um, like, well, first of all, I never heard of a star being before, ever. Ever. I definitely had heard of aliens, but that was just not my thing. Like if there was a group of people talking about aliens, I'd let them have the conversation. I go make a cup of tea or something. And they were just like, why don't you believe in this? I said, oh, it's not that I don't believe in these things. It's just not my lane. And I get so much input all the time at a psychic level that I just don't have, I just have to be really careful about just staying pretty clear. All right. So, having said that, I have a meditation room and I was sitting on the floor meditating about nothing special. I wasn't in any angst about anything. I wasn't asking, the universe to help me. I was just having a very nice, peaceful, quiet moment. And I heard, um, we all have ringing in the ears, but this was outside my head. It wasn't inside. And it sounded like a jet engine plane landing on my house. It was loud. And then I felt the pressure change in the room that I was in. And then suddenly it felt like I was not alone. And I had my eyes closed, but I opened my eyes. And I remember I just turned to look, and then it was like, and they were like 12 feet tall, very benevolent. And I said, oh, hello. And there was, I would say that there was nothing, but I wasn't attuned to the frequency. What I heard was like the sound of whales and dolphins. And it was very high level. And so, and it wasn't even like, hello, how are you? Our name is this. We wanted to introduce, it was nothing like that. It was an instant download, like somebody just dropped a package in my lap, and I heard, we need you to go to China and get the prophecy. That was it. But it was one of those, where you don't have a choice. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that, where you just have that type of hit. And I said, oh, well, I've never been to China. I don't speak Chinese. I wouldn't even know where to begin finding where this prophecy is supposed to be. So I'm trying to backpedal a little bit, just in case they got the wrong address.
Yeah.
And then I just told them what I needed. Oh, and by the way, I have no money. So I have no money to pay for the trip. I don't speak Chinese. So I go through the whole list.
And yeah, sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and China doesn't have any pyramids, but also the pyramid piece hadn't dropped in yet. So,
Well, are you ready for this one? 2 weeks later, there was a knock at my door. I opened the door, and there was a Chinese woman standing there. Now, I will, in full transparency, I knew she had taken a couple of classes of mine. And she had heard through the grapevine this experience I had. And she goes, I'm going to take you to China, and I'm going to take you, and I'm paying for the whole trip.
Inspired souls, lumen beings, I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you that are subscribed to this podcast. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to the channel. Thank you so much for your incredible love and support. And to all of you that haven't subscribed, and in fact, some of you think you are subscribed, but you actually aren't. So please do take a moment. The subscribe button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution as I'm saying the word subscribe. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, and join the movement, join the community, spreading love, positivity, and wisdom like this around the planet together. Thank you so much in advance for your support. We couldn't be doing it without you. And on the note of community, it is such an important time to connect to community. You can join us at the Inspired Evolution Circle. It's inspiredevolution.com/circle. Once a month, you get to connect with the guests directly, ask your questions of the guests. Weekly, we gather for meditations, community sharing circles. There is so much going on the day-to-day inside the community circle. So join us, inspiredevolution.com/circle. Welcome yourself home. We would love to see you there.
And so she came like every week. I think that this event was maybe in the spring with the Blue Beings of Light. And by September, I was on a plane going to China. And she came every week, and she'd lay out all these maps of China. Where do you feel like you need to go? And we would mark, I would talk to the Blue Beings of Light. We would mark, the different maps. But I still, it was a challenge to bring through this kind of information. And so I've always called them the blue beings. So when I asked them once, who are you? They did tell me they are Syrian. However, they said they are not the only blue beings. Arcturians can be blue, Palladians can be blue. So they said it depends on, Lyrans can be blue. I did not know that, which are the lion star beings. I always thought they would be golden like a lion. And they said, no, it's just like what energy is part of their path to work with. And if it's part of the path to work with illusion and truth and justice, then they want to work with blue. And they gave the example of the Christ conscious, that Jesus loved to work with the Christ conscious. And I did not know that was a frequency, and that many beings have come to earth to work with Christ gold, like we meditate with gold. So anyway, so I've called them the blue beings of light for so long. But that's just how I refer to them.
It's interesting because once you finally got to China as well, you were visiting all these different Taoist masters and you'd almost given up.
Yes. Yeah. I was done. I'll just put it that way. I was done. Well, first of all, you have to understand, I met the Taoist masters I met were incredible, incredible beings. And anyone who follows a Taoist path will tell you, you must get your own answers. And so that's what I would tell them the story. They would want to hear about it. They were very excited. And they said, we're not allowed to tell you. You have to get your own information. And so I was conflicted because I had gotten on a plane because I was instructed that I needed to find the prophecy. And there was one in particular Taoist master that was not very nice. And I won't go into what happened. But I just wasn't too keen on setting myself up for that to happen again. And I know it was all part of the process. But yes, I was supposed to fly out of Beijing the next day, and I had one more Taoist master to meet. And I told Alice Tingling, no, I can't do it. I can't do one more meeting. I'm just spent. And she said, you have to. You have to meet with him. This Taoist master is he never sees people, ever. He has not met with another person in 3 years, and he wants to meet with you. And he's so important in their culture that it would be an insult for me to say no. And so then she said to me, if you start to feel uncomfortable, all you have to do is stand up. I will stand up with you. You don't even have to explain to me why you feel the need to leave. And I will walk out with you. I have your back. And I was like, you promise? She said, I promise. And so we went. And it was a pretty incredible experience. Yeah. Yeah. So we drive up. And so by this time, we're like a caravan. So we have, let's see, how many people? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, like 8 or 10, people now are gathering, and we've all kind of pulled up in this little mini bus. And what was delightful about this is there's this man in these coveralls. He looks like he's a mechanic, like a grease monkey kind of thing. And he's just put away his 12 black German shepherds. So now I'm thinking he's the gardener. No, this is the man. And so he's kind of showing us around, and he invited me to go into his main room, this beautiful, china and jade, and it's just incredible. And there's a interpreter there. And so I'm sitting, and if I can be honest, in my background, I'm like, okay, let's just get this, let's just get this on the road. I got a suitcase to pack. And I just knew, because what was happening every time I met a Taoist master, they had me reading everybody, which is fine, but I'm here in the Western world. Nobody even believes that psychics exist. And so now I'm in China. Read this person, read this person, read, and then they'd go get so-and-so and read them. And it was a lot of fun, and we enjoyed it. But this is what I thought he was going to do. That's not what he did. So he's sitting there across the room, and next thing you know, he burst into blue. And I went, oh. So he knew I could see him at this point, because he didn't tell me he was going to turn. I literally saw it. And then telepathically just came out of my head to his, oh my God, you're a blue star being. No words. A big smile comes on his face. And then we just start talking telepathically. Now, the interpreter knows how important this man is. And he said, look, you've come a long way. You want to talk to him. Are you going to say anything? And I'm like, we don't need an interpreter. We're having a full-on conversation, and that's what happened. And so he did tell me with words through the interpreter after we finished our other galactic conversation, that he said, you're a 2nd degree clairvoyant, and in all of China, you would find that in less than 10% of all the Taoist masters. So I need to trust my ability. And he said, the information you are getting is correct. And so no matter what anybody says, you must keep speaking that truth. And then he said, can I take you to lunch? So it was delightful. I'm glad I stayed. He's wonderful. I feel him check in on me often. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. Because one of my questions about that, well, let's frame it into, because he said, trust what you said, like what you're seeing. You know, because like as you're going through this, you're seeing, like you said, you know, off-planet beings was not your was not your
No.
lane, you know. And so at what point, and it's interesting because the blue light, like you said, in your interpretation of the symbolism of it, is one of the things it's here to do is to dispel illusion. And I mean, how are you navigating this process between, am I like, were there points where you like felt delusional as you were going through this? And then it's like, but then the blue light's here to like dispel illusion. And then you're like, huh? And then how important was it for you to get this affirmation from this Taoist master?
Well, I have to say that's one of the most spot on intuitive questions that anybody could ask me because I still battle with it. So they will guide me. We'll talk about light codes. It's like, okay, now we need you to start teaching people about this. And it's just like, oh, I am just totally insane. Like this is insane. But I know that it matters a lot to the consciousness of the earth. And so my ego or my doubt or my struggle that this could be the biggest joke in the universe has to take a side step. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, so you mentioned that the earth is ready for an expansion. I think I want to dive into that. There is this thing about the different pyramids as well, which I don't think we've touched on yet, is wherever we generally find pyramids, there seems to be this map. And I think maybe I heard you
Mhm.
say it. Like it's connected to
Orion's.
Orion,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
Yeah. And the
connected to
Syrian
Orion
stars.
almost.
Yes.
Yeah, so there is this, can you explain this?
I don't know that I can, except it was, I got back from China and I haven't even talked about the prophecy. So the prophecy did come through. I did find the prophecy. So I don't know if you want me to go
Please.
there.
Yeah, let's go there.
Okay. So, so in this organization with Alice Tingling, she threw in some really nice, beautiful places to visit, like the Terracotta Warriors. And so that's in Xi'an, China. And, super excited. Lots of beauty of China. Just, it's mind blowing. It is just mind blowing. So we go to see the Terracotta Warriors, and she's Buddhist. So there was a temple that she wanted to see, and it is a temple in Xi'an, China, and it has the Buddha's index finger. And so, I mean, it's just this opulence of gold and towering buildings. And I mean, you just feel like you're in heaven. And so there's this gilded kind of gold cage, and the ceiling, I'd say easily 100 feet high, and you can look up and you can see the opening. But it was like every hour that would slide open and this kind of gilded cage would come down, and it wouldn't, maybe 30 feet above us. And that would have the Buddha's finger. And so people would line up to kneel down on the pillows. So while the Buddha finger's there, and then you're going to, meditate or pray or whatever you're going to do. And so I went to kneel down, and it was not even a minute later, a blue lightning bolt came out of the ceiling and it hit me on the head. And I was blown backwards, and I hit one of the people on the trip with us, knocked her backwards. I was on the ground. They had to kind of pull me off because I was now in a full on vision. I was having a full vision. And in that vision, that there would be blue light coming to Earth and awaken billions, billions of people on the planet, that it was coming. And so it's like, you need to talk about this. You need, you know, and so that was it. It's like, we're going to have a mass awakening. And this was in 2017. So they gave me 2 years. But it just doesn't, it just moves in its own time frame. But that's what happened. I got the prophecy. And then when our group went to dinner and I said prophecy came, I went to share it with them and they all started chattering to each other in Chinese. And they said, I'm like, what's going on? Explain. And they said, the prophecy you just shared has been written about in a book that was published 1,500 years ago. They knew of this prophecy. And
wow, and it's heralding in at this time.
Yes. Yes. And so that's why we want to have people want to have conversations about what all this means. But the bottom line is humanity's awakening. We are changing. The world is changing. The universe is changing. And there's nothing we can do about it. And to me, it's changing in an uplifting way, but we're still in the thick of it right now. And even I can forget that there's a sunrise on the horizon.
Hey there, Inspired Souls. Spirituality is not something we just talk about here at the Inspired Evolution. It's something we live and breathe with our entire beings. Whether it's in your career, your life, the way you lead in the world, or your relationships, it's at the heart of the way we believe life should be lived. And so if you're feeling out of alignment, or you can feel that there's something more, or you're feeling like you're not thriving in life, touch wood, the way that you ought to be, then we've got guidance to take you even deeper. You've got support from me one-on-one, and you've also got a like-minded, like-hearted community masterminding, master-hearting together through guidance together. And you don't have to take my word for it. This is how people all over the world have transformed through guidance.
Everything just kind of fell into place, and now I'm on a path that I actually believe in and I'm excited about, because I feel like I'm becoming my best self.
Over those 2 years, I have done so much. I can't believe where I am now. I'm thrilled where I am now. Not only was he a coach, but he became a divine presence in my life.
You can show up to Amrit with all sorts of chaos in your life and you leave feeling completely centered with some direction that is going to get you results. It's just magic when you're in coaching with Amrit. You just flow with it all.
I feel that I have access and connection to somebody who is deeply entrenched in my development.
If you're thinking about it, just do it. You won't regret it.
So what are you waiting for? If you feel the call, then join me on a call. amritsandhu.com/call. Link on screen now, and also at the top of the description in the show notes below. Join me in a call. Let's dive in deep to your path, onwards, upwards, and inwards from here. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a call. Go on, I'll see you there. Well, it's interesting you refer to that. I mean, I think it's incumbent upon me to sort of ask you the question, what you think awakening really means in this term for the collective. Mm-hmm. But also, if I can ask within that question, something I struggle myself sort of framing it this way, but you use the term quite frequently, which I'm coming closer to it. It's ascension symptoms. Mm-hmm. You call them ascension symptoms, mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm not sure why I have a reluctance to the term. Maybe because it feels like some people might get left behind. I don't know.
But I have a reluctance to the term. I didn't coin the phrase, but it seems to be a phrase that a lot of people understand, but it's just growing pains. And so for me, I try to really, there's just a lot about woke, and I don't even know what people mean when they say, people are woke and some people aren't woke, but basically it's like, I say you get out of bed in the morning, and you get your slippers on and you're patting your way to the kitchen, you're filling up the pot, you're pouring it in, and you're going to make your coffee, and you're standing there, and it's like, to me, okay, that's asleep. You're still sleepy. Awake is waking up, getting your slippers on, excited for the day, glad to feel alive. Just can't wait to see what Spirit has in store for you, when you walk down your front steps and you're going to skip down the hallway and go into the kitchen and make that coffee. And if you've got your loved one in the home, pour a cup for them and just so glad. Like, that's awake. So I know we think about it as we're spiritual beings and, and yeah, all that's true, but we're bringing our consciousness into the body. And that's what I call awake, is just happy to be alive, not waiting until you might become enlightened next Friday. It's like, be happy to be alive right now. And when you get to that place, I tell people all the time, my students, it's like, when you stop questioning, is this going to be my last lifetime? Am I going to finally ascend and I don't have to come back to this place? Every time you say that, you can guarantee you're going to be coming back again and again and again, because the time we've truly arrived is when we just thoroughly enjoy being here on earth and being in a human body. And that's where we're being taken to.
It's interesting because there's this really deep sense of vitality that you're actually speaking to there. And simultaneously, we'll just keep going with ascension symptoms, but growing pains. People seem a little bit more discombobulated, lethargic, confused, unclear, almost than ever before. So isn't it weird that like the awakening is like this vitality piece, but almost, yeah, there's like all this chaos in the process of getting there? Like, isn't that a bit of a juxtaposition in your...
Well, the body is, it's kind of like if you've been, you're working in the garden, or you're a construction worker, or you're working on the car and you get the oil and the dirt and everything all over you, and you've got to go throw those in the wash and, put in the extra powerful soap to get it all cleaned out, and go hop in the shower and get the grease out from underneath your nails. That's what we're doing as humans. We're cleansing the dirt, we're cleansing the stains, we're cleansing that. And I've been doing this for 30 years, and there are some days where I feel like, have I ever been doing anything? And so it's like, I was just talking to my students this morning, and I'm like, get that energetic, safety pack. Like, I live here in Washington State, which is highly known for earthquakes. And I've got my go bag, of my water, of everything, if we have an earthquake, to just grab and run. Well, when we get into those those funky places, then do you put on music and dance? Does that help you snap out of it? It's like, find what's going to help get you on track again. And that works fine for the day-to-day stuff, but then you've got the big wars, and it's like, who's going to explain that one? Because, boy, that's really hitting me hard.
And how do you square the circle on such things like that?
I have two choices. I can go high, things are unfolding as they should, right? Or I can go low, and it's like, I need to punch somebody in the face. It's like, because that's who we are. We're not just spirit. We are human as well. And every time it gets worse, I just have to keep coming back to center. And then I have to keep trusting that there's that sunrise on the horizon and keep moving forward.
The next 3 years in particular, you're saying, like, you've been doing this for 30 years. It's been a very interesting time over the last little bit. But it seems like the next 3 years, tuning into what you were sharing with Pam, like, there seems to be this really, really fascinating, interesting time ahead.
Yeah.
What do you see particularly coming up? And I mean, January 2026 seems to be this real peak point as well.
Yeah.
And what's coming up. Can I get you to speak to the predictions of what's coming forward, please?
Well, yes, and there seems to be, I kind of call it this dress rehearsal Definitely in the fall. So we're talking about September, October, November, and December. And when I call a dress rehearsal, that's where I missed my mark on the stage. Oh, where's my costume? Where's this? Oh, okay, I forgot my makeup. Or, this is where we're just trying to really get that sense about ourselves. And I always have a saying, get our head on straight, But what I see happening over the next 3 years, I'm a registered nurse, and in this 30 years, I have studied intimately the energetic field of the human body, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And so when the blue beings of light came in, I'm like, well, what does this have to do with the human body? And fortunately now it's coming together. So what this coming together is the next 3 years we are going to start becoming rapidly a lighter body, lighter minded, lighter hearted. We have light codes that have been coming in. I started seeing light codes come in 2020, early 2020. And so I had to ask them, what is happening here? But the light codes are, they kind of explain it like snowflakes. If you're out in the snow and the snowflakes land on your skin and they kind of melt into your skin, we're all absorbing light codes right now. And in that absorption, it just is preparing our body to understand. I don't know if the term's right for higher, but understand knowledge that is a nice blend with wisdom. I think we have a lot of smartness. Um, I, I mean, I mean, everybody I'm meeting, it's incredible what they're doing with, and the way that they're processing this time that we're in. But knowledge with wisdom, like that's a whole nother ball game. And so what's happening in the body is it's just slowly purging, slowly purging. Like you can't take a glass of water if you have something else already in your mouth. You got to spit that out, and then the fresh glass of water can come in. So it's very much like that in the body. So it isn't, everybody's already been going through that. This is nothing new, but it's going to really rapidly in the next 3 years. So what does that mean? It means you're going to be becoming super smart. It's like the way they describe it to me, because they've been describing everything to me through quantum physics. And I'm like, I didn't even pass algebra. Like, how am I going to understand this? But they explain it in such an incredible way, but I'm like starting to get it. Or they're saying like, you, Imrit, maybe don't have a musical bone in your body, and then one day you sit down and start just playing the piano, maybe never have painted, and then you just feel this intense craving to get paints and start painting it. But where I see the biggest shift that's happening is in science and in health and medicine. I'm super excited about that. So they are bringing in a lot of knowledge, but our DNA and our brain just isn't ready to take in these concepts. So they're helping us get our bodies ready.
So it seems like we're actually being primed for a shift that's coming, and it's more of a frequency shift more so than anything else. And this is one of the things that you've said is actually it's coming for all of us, whether we like it or not. And it's interesting with your nursing background, you're starting to actually see blue rings of light coming on in certain chakras, certain body parts. And I think recently you said you're seeing it turn online more on the masculine side of bodies, which invites us into more action. Can you unpack some of this for us, please?
Yeah. So that I found that quite surprising. I don't know why I found that surprising. But so yes, we definitely have the feminine divine, and the earth is just beautifully saturated with the feminine divine. And there's still a lot we're unpacking around that, but my sense is we're getting a sense about that, what that actually means, the feminine divine. And then I've worked with a lot of men and over the years, and there's this aspect of some thinking they need to work with more of the feminine energy because we were going to be awakening, and in the awakening it was going to be a more feminine world, and it really was not healthy for for their body. They're in a male body, and so there was a lot of work, and we've got in our community some beautiful communities of men here that really get together. So the male, I don't know, male side isn't quite the right word. So like in the Zulu culture, they call it Indiki. So Indiki means, it's the red, it's the strong, or the yin and yang, it would be the yang. So, but it's the action. So I always say it's like, sitting and meditating and getting this beautiful download of information from the blue beings of light. We need you to go to China. And then the Indiki, the yang, the male is get up off the meditation pillow and head to China. And so that's what we need right now. Like we have a lot of kind of that male domination power stuff. It's just being purged in a big way. But it's like that. I'm noticing with there's a new kind of male man, and I know, and women can run male energy too, but there's something about this platform is being uplifted to really put everything into action that we've been building within ourselves for whatever, the past 50 years.
Inspired soul living beings, what are you taking away from today's conversation? Nancy is such an incredible storyteller. What is the most fascinating piece around today's podcast that you're taking away? Join us in conversation in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And she's likely to be back on in the podcast in the future. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below as well. And I'd love to ask them on your behalf the next time she's here. Thank you so much for your support. It's a very interesting time.
It is.
To be alive. It's and to watch the shifts that we're going through. Do you think, like, the time we're going through is a blue time? You must have contemplated whether there are other bands and frequencies of colors and stuff that,
there
come
definitely
online.
are. There definitely are. And there's definitely different star beings, different colors. There's also, we work with the blue, but there are some other frequencies that go hand in hand with the blue. Rose quartz is one of them.
Right.
Emerald green is another. There's a beautiful kind of silver, and then there's a diamond. And the diamond beings have come through to me a couple times, not a lot, but I've had people share with me that the diamond beings, our culture, civilization, is communicating with a lot of people on our earth. I just don't happen to be one of them. When they came, I would say it was about a year, maybe 18 months ago, but they came in as a hologram, where they would kind of flicker, and which was separate than the blue star beings. You can kind of see through them, but they're more present. But the diamond being said they're in the farthest galaxy that they told me. We're in the furthest galaxy, and we have to project our hologram because we can't travel to Earth. And they are really almost like the overseers of everything that's happening.
And more of these beings, apparitions, holograms are starting to appear to more and more people at this time. Because I know one of the things that has been surprising for you is when you first started sharing about this, you expected backlash and disbelief. And actually you've had a very different response to what you initially expected.
Yeah, very different. Well, they had told me, if you can't go to China, we'll find somebody else who can do it. So, and they said, we're working with a lot of people on the earth. And so, because I asked them, why me? Because for a lot of reasons, right? And they said, because basically you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. It wasn't like I was somebody, incredibly special. It's just that I'm going to follow through also with what they ask me to do. And there's a lot of people, but there was one woman, it's like it stuck with me. She made a comment, and it was after I came out, in a big way on Pam. And she said she was listening to Pam's podcast. She was washing dishes in the kitchen, whatever she's doing. And then she heard me come on, and she heard me mention the blue beings of light and the blue light. And she just went down on her knees, and just started sobbing, because she had been having this experience with blue light beings for so long, and she thought she was crazy. And now suddenly, here was somebody actually speaking it. And so I've heard many, many people that in the visitations of the blue beings, a lot of people are having visitations now. It's a hopping place here on Earth. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not hopping. Yeah.
Touchwood, there's this piece I wanted to tune in with you on, because as we're talking about this, it does get, I won't say ethereal, but it does get cosmic, let's call it that. And yet so much of your training, I mean, in the background, like you've been to Australia, you've connected with the Indigenous roots and cultures here, South Africa, you were trained to be a Sangoma. I think there's something to talk about, especially even before you said, shifts are happening in the body. How much of like earth and earth awareness and earth groundedness is important for us to actually turn some of these gifts online? Can you speak to that, and potentially even some of your trainings that have come through there?
Yeah, it's probably one of the things I'm most passionate about, because what I've learned as a psychic is what I've learned with the human condition is we want to go higher, higher, higher. We want to be lighter, lighter, lighter. And I often struggle to find words to say, but the enlightenment you're looking for is below your feet. And so we forget that the earth is made of stardust. And when I was called, so it's a calling, meaning a Sangoma must identify you as a Sangoma. So a Sangoma is a traditional medicine woman. And I lived in South Africa for a year. It didn't happen at that time. It was about 8 years later. But I would have a Zulu person look at me and say, "Are you a Sangoma?" And I would say, "What?" So there was definitely something in my energy field. Zulus can see people. They can see your aura. But when I finally answered the call 8 years later, the Zulu people, they talk about they are from the stars. They call them the Abalozis. The Abalozi beings are the star beings. I did not know this until I had finished my training. And then they said, "We need you to go through the Abalozi training." But in their training, if you start to kind of go up out of your body, like the drums start and you get up, they'd have me get up and I'd have to start stomping, stomping, stomping. They want me to bring the light in the body, in the body, in the body. And when I asked them, I'm like, "Look, I'm not Zulu. Like, why are you saying I need to go through this training?" And they said, "Because you're going to be doing big work and we need you to stay grounded. Or the ancestors need you to stay grounded, like they're preparing you." And so, but it was even before that, we need to bring the light in the body. Our bodies are like ascended masters, and we don't even know it. And that's the message that I'm just going to be shouting from the mountaintops for the rest of my life, Get in the body, get in the body. When you start feeling that body and the richness and the beauty, you're going to wonder why you ever wanted to escape it.
Nancy, why is this conversation so important to be had today? And why are we sharing it with everybody? What's really underneath there? Why is it so important for people to be aware of this blue light?
Well, there's a lot of suffering in the world. There's just a lot of suffering. And, I imagine I could go just around my own neighborhood and, it's like, even my own mother had 3 strokes last week. And, it's like life goes on. These things, they
Sorry to hear
happen. And
that.
it was quite tragic. But so I always say we're stronger together than we ever have been apart, and our unified community is how we're really going to, I don't know. I don't know that the word survive this, but it's like, we just keep encouraging each other to take that next step, right? And so it's important because sometimes when we are struggling so much, we can forget that the divine is in our life. We can forget that we're even a spirit. When I had my out of body experience, I did not know I was a spirit. And so, and once you know you're a soul and you're a spirit, and once you learn to connect with that, then life gets easier. And so we're going through it. Yes, we agreed to go through it at this time. Yes, we were battling in the spirit world to get the golden ticket so we could be down on earth. I believe that with every fiber of my being. And then we get here and we're like, well, I knew it was going to be rough, but I didn't know it was going to be this rough. And so, and I want to talk to people. I just want to make it not so ethereal, very user friendly, very day-to-day stuff, because we are all in this together. And people are incredible. And I am not joking about that. Once, when people get tapped in, there's this brilliance that comes out.
Hey there, Inspired Souls. Nancy's mentioning the importance of community at this time, and it's not lost upon us. We created the Inspired Evolution Circle, an incredible tribe and community experience for all of you here tuning into the podcast. Once a month, you get to meet the masters, the guests like Nancy, Pam Gregory, all these incredible teachers that come on to share their insights and wisdom. And you, as the audience, directly ask the questions. I step out of the way. You, as the audience, ask the guests your questions yourself inside the circle. Once a week, I lead guided meditations. We also connect in community sharings. A lot of good juju going on in the space. So welcome yourself home. Come on in. We'd love to meet you inside the Inspired Evolution Circle. That's inspiredevolution.com/circle. See you on the inside.
And during COVID, we had a team, myself and some volunteers, that went into the homeless shelter for youth. And they were between the ages of like 14 and 21, I think. And that's what I would teach them, how to just bring their light, to notice their own light. And I remember one young man said, I didn't think I had a soul. And I was like, really? What made you think that? He goes, well, because I live out in the cold, the streets, and I thought only homeless people, but people like me don't have a soul. That's why we have to live on the streets. And I thought that people who have a soul are the ones that have a nice life. And so it was huge, or you've got these youth who, I remember when I was teaching them how to ground, and I said, ground like a tree with roots. And Amrit, they said, what are roots? And so I said, well, like, what's a tree? And they named a tree from The Lion King, or they named a tree from Avatar. Like, they were raised in front of a television. So I told them, next time you're outside, I want you to look at a tree and look at the roots. Like, these are the people that were living with and around us every single day. And I just don't want anybody left behind. Yeah, just to enjoy life. You don't have to, be a monk in a cave somewhere. That's not where we're going. But just to know you have a soul, that's all I need. Yeah, that's all
I
I need.
love that. For those that want to tune in a little bit deeper, are there any mission directives? Are there any advice for people that want to facilitate their path in and around this work? Maybe
So
some
if they
people
want to
look.
go a little bit deeper, is that what you were
Yes,
saying?
and some people probably want to connect to the blue light themselves. People probably want to have, like ways to navigate through the ascension symptoms. Like, yeah, I mean, any advice for people that want to prime themselves further, because it does seem like priming is part of what's going on during
Yes.
this time. How do people actually come into the priming themselves?
Well, so I am going to just speak to anybody. So meditation means to self-reflect. I like to take the mystery out of that. Meditation means to self-reflect and to ponder, so you could be walking through the forest and pondering and just ask, just allow the frequency of the blue light to just infuse your body. So that's the simplest part, or infuse your life, infuse your house. I do have free blue light guided meditations on my website, so that was one of the things the blue beings wanted me to do, was to make this available. So I do have 2 meditation, one a little shorter, one a little longer. And and I do, have 2 programs that really work with the blue light and the blue light codes. And those are part of my evergreen program that there's no end date to it. So they can look at that. Um, but mostly at the psychic intuitive level, we're so rapidly realizing we're really intuitive. Just tune in to your inner authority and just let yourself get that guidance about your next steps.
Awesome. I'll put links to all of that in the show
Beautiful.
notes below as well. Yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting. Yeah, this has been so fascinating. Our human bioenergetic fields. I mean, the planet, its pyramids, the downloads that are coming, Orion, different planets. I mean, and then obviously the wisdom of the earth and the shifts that we're going through as well. I mean,
and then we still have to tie our shoes and walk out the door.
and make our cups of tea and go about the day to day. And yeah, it's such. I mean. Yeah, and it's interesting because you did really mention this piece around community and the this.
It's essential. It is essential. Yeah.
Is that just because it can be so disconcerting at a certain point in time that having other people to help ground and orient yourself can be just medicine?
Well, and even, we went through COVID. It was like such an isolation period of time, which I think is so ironic. It's almost like we had to be pulled apart, and then it's like we want, for some people found joy in being alone, and other people were like, I really want to connect. But I do feel like things are unfolding as they should, and how can we just make it a little bit more comfortable is the job that everyone can do. Just follow the breadcrumbs that their spirit is dropping in front of them, the synchronicities, the books that fall off the bookshelf. And yeah.
And a question. I mean, let's say we move through this time, we receive the blue light downloads. What do you see for the next generations to come? Intuitively, any awareness around the next generations?
So the younger generation, they're struggling. There's a lot of struggle going on, but but then there's this like, where did you come from? And just how clear. That's what I think really impresses me the most, is that the young people like yourself. And I mean, like, when I think about, you've been doing this for 10 plus years. I mean, that's amazing. But the mind, I just like, you go, like, just that understanding. And what I love about the young people, it's like, don't waste time over here, over here. Like, they're very clear. And I would love to see a lot of young people in politics. And what I will say about China, now I might not get the dates right, but what I learned over there, you are forced to retire at 55. You're forced to retire so that the young people in the company can rise into the CEO positions. And so because they know this, they start getting the young people prepared. So when they retire, they have people to step in. And yeah, they're preparing us.
A whole new wave of leadership emerging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nancy Rebecca. My goodness. Thank you so much.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Incredible podcast. My goodness. And yeah, I mean, yes, thank you so much for today's podcast. Obviously, sharing yourself so abundantly. And it's, you know, it'd be remiss of us not to acknowledge just this is your life's work and then some, you know, and also just those little pockets and crevices where it's difficult to trust, and, you know, you following the call and trusting through those little bits as well, because I think that's the bit where spirit shows up. And just want to honor and acknowledge you for the work that you do in the world. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And thank you for doing this with us here today.
Oh, it's really, there definitely have been those times where it's like, why did I agree to this? You know, why did I agree to this? And I just keep hearing that voice that I know is God that says, Nancy, if you will just do what you promised us you would do before you were even born, I promise you I'm going to take care of you in ways you can't even begin to imagine.
I wish I had a mic to drop.
But that keeps me going. Often I will hear that. Often, and boy, have I been taken well care of. It's beautiful, but getting out of my own way, that's been the hard part.
Such medicine in hearing you share that. Thank you so much, Nancy.
You're welcome. I'd had my out-of-body experience. I could see the whole spirit world. I could see everybody, but I didn't know what I was seeing. But anyway, in this book, it talked about 144,000 people would be ascending. And I remember I was going to work really hard so that I could be one of those 144,000. And it's just like, whoa, what? That is light years away from where we are now. And I was just having the conversation yesterday. The blue beings of light come. We have a conversation. They want me to share things. They want me to make videos. But my head doesn't believe it, Amrit.
It's such a trippy space to be in.
It's trippy. It's trippy. So anybody out there, if you're listening to this, you are in good company, you know, to still follow that next step, even though you just feel absolutely off your rocker.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I was researching the etymology of the word intelligence, and you mentioned a higher form of intelligence with wisdom in there. And the word intelligence actually has this, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at symbology a bit too much and sigils and stuff or whatever, touchwood, but intelligence has two L's. And literally the etymology of the word intelligence is like to hold ideas between two lines. And the greater the depth between. So it's like I look at the word intel and legence as sort of like this ever-expanding gap where it's like actually how far apart can you hold? And it's like, okay, like you said, completely off my rocker, but then also it is also happening. And it's like, huh? You know? And it's like the ability of like intelligence to occupy that span further and further and broader. Like it's an interesting contemplation.
And I have conversations with my mind. You know, I just like it's a friend. What's going on for you? You know, what are you feeling threatened, you know, by expanding your neuroplasticity? You know, are you feeling threatened that if you believe this, what's going to happen? Because our minds do need to adapt. And so I try to help it along a little bit by having conversations.
Do you feel rutted by a sense of safety though? Like in terms of like some of these conversations are actually making you feel more whole and integral in some sort of deep fundamental way as you're going into them, and that's why you can trust it a little bit more? Or am I projecting on you?
No, you're really good. You're really good at asking those kind of like, what's her inner psyche going on here? Because
I'm just curious.
My inner psyche, but it's true. Sometimes it's way outside my comfort zone. Where my body doesn't, like light codes, for example.
Yeah.
And I saw sparkles of blue coming down, and then it was coming through my house, and I'm looking around, and then I can vision, Africa, or I can vision different countries, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's coming down everywhere. And what's happening? And so I think my curiosity, well, I'm insanely curious. And so that's what really flips the script for me, is I let my students know, I call it going down the rabbit hole. And then it's like, I want to know, but I don't force it. I think it's like, I'll get a little bit of information about the light codes, or little packets of knowledge, like high level knowledge, just like a little piece being dropped into the game. And it's, and neutrinos, like neutrinos. Have you ever heard of a neutrino? Neutrino is such a small particle, and it's blue, and it can travel from the furthest parts of the galaxy, and it comes through the sun. It comes through our bodies. We don't even know. We have neutrinos, which are smaller particles of light codes. And so I learned about light codes in 2020. I learned about neutrinos 6 months ago. So I get these little bits,
Yeah. And it all fits. And it all fits.
They're so freaking cool.
Yeah.
So I just try to stay in that state of curiosity. But I am definitely one of those trust but verify. I do want to embody the knowledge before I share it with anyone.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing yourself so abundantly today. Like, man, it's been really, really cool. Really, really cool connecting with you.
I just know, like you said, it's just coming on the world stage. And oh my gosh, I just love everybody that's talking about it. Yeah.
It's such a blessing. You inspired souls, living beings, you've made it through to the end of another incredible episode. It is such an honor to be your brother walking this path by your incredible side. Thank you so much for your love and support. And on that note, you've obviously enjoyed this video, you've watched it all the way through to the end, so please do give it a thumbs up and a like. It votes for content like this to be circulated around online, championing love, positivity, and wisdom. And talking about championing love, positivity, and wisdom, thank you so much to all of you that are subscribed to this podcast. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to this channel. Thank you so much for your incredible love and support. Seriously, we could not be doing this without you. And to all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. And in fact, some of you think you are subscribed, but it turns out you're actually not. So take a moment, check it out. There's a subscribe button down here below. If you can actually see the button, it means you're not subscribed. So hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, and join the community, join the movement. Support us in spreading love, positivity, and wisdom like this around the planet together. Thank you so much in advance for your incredible love and your support. And a friendly reminder and a beautiful invitation welcoming you home. If you feel the call, the Inspired Evolution community is waiting with open arms to welcome you into the Inspired Evolution Circle. That's inspiredevolution.com/circle if you want to join the inner community. And like I said, we would love to have you here. Once a month, you get to ask questions of the guests themselves. You meet the masters and you join your tribe. And also once a week, I guide meditations. There's community circles and sharings and initiatives. The community is spreading together. We're eventually putting things together also to meet in person. Lots of cool stuff going on inside the Inspired Evolution community. So inspiredevolution.com/circle. Welcome home. Join us on the inside. We'd love to see you and welcome you into that space. And on screen now, to keep your inspired evolution flowing onwards, upwards, and inwards, an episode of the Inspired Evolution is waiting for you. So go and take your pick and make your click. I'll see you in the next one. Go on. I'll see you there.